Greetings, everyone. Mental Health Day just passed on October the 8th, so I actually thought it was fitting to move our third episode of Black Breast Matters up to our second episode because it actually deals with the mental health issues surrounding a breast cancer diagnosis. The Black Breast Matters series continues with this episode, Hold My Hand, the mental health journey of a breast cancer survivor and how friendships can help. When someone is diagnosed with breast cancer, it can be hard to know how best to support them. The mental health gymnastics from diagnosis through treatment and to survivorship is significant and ranges from shock to anger to anxiety to depression and everything in between. And those diagnosed, well, they go through it all. Today, we are taking a look at the mental health struggles of our sisters in the fight and the best ways to support them. Our guest today is Dr. Stephanie D. Barnes, who has an interesting perspective and has some guidance for friends and families of survivors. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome to the show.
Hello there, and thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here. But first, I want to share a little information with our audience about who you are. You are a writer who moonlights as a corporate attorney. You are an award-winning author on leadership, gender equality, and women's rights. And you have created this fabulous cadre of media that includes Conversations from the C-Suite, a girlfriend's guide to being a CEO that's really designed to empower women and girls. In addition, you are an international speaker and life coach. The list is long, but it is impressive.
Well, I'm just mainly committed to making sure that women give themselves a voice, they use their voice, and that we work together to make sure that we all have a seat at the table.
Absolutely. Well, most importantly for us today, you are the daughter of a breast cancer survivor who has firsthand experience with the mental health stress faced by those diagnosed. I thought your expertise and lived experience would be informative to our guest as we explore how we can support our sisters facing this crisis. So let's start at the beginning. Your mom is diagnosed with cancer, and then?
Yeah. I distinctly remember that day. I literally was sitting in my office, and my mom called, and she says, those words. And we've all, those of us who have supported breast cancer survivors, women who've been diagnosed with breast cancer, have heard some iteration of they found a lump. And, then she goes on to tell me that, the lump has indeed been determined to be cancerous and that, she just found out and, they will be beginning her treatment plan. And it was also very surreal. It was like I heard it, but I didn't hear it.
Right.
And it was very shocking because, we didn't really have a history of breast cancer in our family. My great-grandmother had died of uterine cancer. So that was kind of something I always expected and, did not expect anyone I knew personally, or my family, that is, to have breast cancer. So it was all very shocking. And, of course, I remember immediately calling one of my girlfriends to say, my mom just told me that she's been diagnosed with breast cancer. And, that just kind of began the journey of, going through the process. And, I never feared my mom dying. Fortunately, that was something I wasn't consumed with. I felt hopeful from the beginning that this was something that she would get through, largely because she had detected early. And I just felt hopeful that we would be able to get through it. And fortunately, she she did. She went through her chemotherapy, and actually my mom chose to have a double mastectomy.
Okay.
So, she was just like, look, I'm not fooling with this. I'm not going to be worried about it. And I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, I had to go to Greenville, Mississippi, which is where my mom is from, to be with her when she had her double mastectomy. And I tell you, that was really something that was the most surreal of everything, because, our breasts are such a huge part of our identity as women. And I tell you, still to this day, it is very stark to see my mom's chest and no breast there. Mm-hmm. But I know that she is a survivor and, has had no further complications and has otherwise done extremely well.
Now, so as a daughter, you're going to hit with a double whammy. You have to support your mom, but given the increased likelihood of breast cancer in women whose moms and aunts have breast cancer, I assume you face some stressors yourself. Tell me about that.
Yes, of course, I began to be more diligent about, my own breast health. Fortunately, at this point, when my mom was diagnosed, I'd already been getting my mammograms regularly. And, this just heightened, of course, the need to do so continuously. And so, like I say, fortunately, I never got really anxious. Mm-hmm. I was very focused on my mom and just knew that, if I continued to, get my mammograms, that, there's a possibility, of course, that I may have the same thing, have the same diagnosis, but I've chosen not to fixate on it. And that has helped me to not be overly anxious about, what if this happens?
Now, in a lot of your work, you push women to take control of their own destiny and get moving toward the life they desire. You also stress the importance of women supporting one another through the good and the bad. Now, if a friend or a loved one is diagnosed with breast cancer, what's your best advice for how we as friends should and can support them?
Yeah, I think, a lot of it also depends on the relationship you had prior. And when you go through a traumatic situation like this, it can either, change the relationship or strengthen it or put stressors on it. And I think, as a friend, as a loved one of someone who's going through this, it's really important to put them at the center of it. And what I mean by that is to really ask them, what do they need from you? Mm-hmm. Because our natural inclination is to jump into cheerleader role, and we want to get them focused on the future, and we want to keep them from, feeling pain, and we want to focus on all the good. But, they may really need that person who can help them deal with the fears and the anxieties, and to be the person to cry with them. And we have to understand what we're equipped to do and what we're not equipped to do. Because there's some things that, we really need to leave to the mental health professionals who are skilled at guiding someone through this kind of trauma. And then, we also have to understand what the limitations are of ourselves with our own stressors and things. Because I know when I was taking care of my mom, the biggest stressor for me was literally how was I going to be there? Because we lived 5 hours apart. Mm-hmm. I was full time, had a family, and just couldn't just take off from work and take off from my family and be with her 24/7. So, I even had to limit the amount of time that I could be with her. And so, we really had to think about it strategically.
Right.
How can I support you in a way that doesn't, isn't detrimental to me? And I think, we need to think about that as well, because we want to be in their support role for the long term. So I think, thinking about, what it is that they need and asking them and evolving. My mom was a trooper. Mm-hmm. She never really got sad about it. She never really got stressed, at least when we were together. But I think she was, honest with me, because we talk every day anyway. But, she really just needed somebody to be there with her. So my role was largely comic relief. Mm-hmm. For her first chemotherapy treatment, I got us matching T-shirts. You know, over the top anyway, and so I got us these glammed out rhinestone T-shirts that we could both wear together to go to chemotherapy, and that was something that was similar to what we did before, and her life normal as much as it could be, and so that was how we did that, and so I understood what she needed, and basically she needed me to be me and to keep our relationship the same. And so fortunately for both of us, neither of us got extremely sad about it. And so we were able to really enjoy each other because this gave me an opportunity to be with her more. Otherwise, I would not, have visited as often. So we took advantage of that and made it as beautiful as we could.
Right. So I bet the normalcy is something we don't think about, that people want to be treated well. They want you to understand what's going on with them, but normalcy may be very, very important.
So to speak, to treat them like they're still the beautiful woman that they were before, because I think, breast cancer in particular, as I mentioned, early on, it really robs women of their identity as a woman, the femininity of it. It touches the very thing, one of the very components that makes us feminine. And so, women are dealing with that. And I think, we can support the breast cancer survivors as best as we can with helping them to enjoy life as they're going through this. And especially for those who are not as fortunate as my mom, but she is a survivor. But those who have, a more severe diagnosis and really suffer through it, I think we have to do our best to help them remain human and normal through this very traumatic time.
Right. Well, I have come up with this idea that we can all be a bra for breast cancer fighters and survivors. And I mean, BRA stands for bestie, realist, and advocate. They need a friend to talk to, someone to be real with them, and someone to advocate for them through the experience. So like a bra, we can hold them up and help keep them stable. What do you think about that?
Oh, that's an excellent analogy, and of course, so apropos for breast cancer. But that is something I think that is those three components are very key, because we've got to be their bestie, the person that loves them, who we were before, and really stand in that role. And we do have to be realistic about things, because that's a huge component of the friendship and the love, is being real, and helping them to stick with their regiment, whatever it is, and being real with them about, whatever their situation is, and definitely being an advocate. Because, when they are going through the treatment, they can be focused on the healing, but there's so many other things that, they just don't have the strength to deal with. And that, we can be an advocate in helping them to establish healthy boundaries from people who are not good for them during that time.
Absolutely.
That's something, that I think is so very important, is protecting them from people who may mean well but are not doing well, and then people who may not mean well, but whatever that means, and then also advocating and helping them with their own treatment and helping them make sure they understand and that they are able to be a part of their treatment plan rather than just being told, what to do through their caregivers, but helping them to be interactive in that process. So that's an excellent analogy of how we can support our loved ones who are going through breast cancer, to be their bra, hold them up, hold the girls up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Carol, this has been a fascinating conversation, and one I don't think we often, look at as we should. And you've given us some really helpful tools, how we can best be a good support system for our sisters who may be going through this. But Could you take a moment, Dr. Stephanie D. Barnes, and tell our audience a little bit about the work you're doing? I would love for them to be able to, keep you in their podcasts as well and learn some of the things that I'm learning.
Well, wonderful. And I do appreciate that opportunity. In this phase, in this season of my life, my focus is actually on creating media that enhances and enriches the lives of girls and women. I have always been an advocate for women and girls, and it has taken on different forms over the years. And I, of course, have my own podcast and am getting ready to launch a new one. And just hope that people continue to follow me and support me. And, of course, you can always go to drstephaniedbarnes.com, make it easy to keep connected. And I'm on social media with Dr. Stephanie D. Barnes. And, of course, you have to put the D in it.
Okay.
Stephanie D. Barnes, that's important. But if you look for me across social media, we can remain connected. And I would love to be connected with those who are listening.
Well, I see that you are going to be speaking for one of our linked chapters, and so I'm sure others will reach out to have this expertise. But again, I want to thank you so much for taking a little bit of your time to share with us how you made it through with your mom being diagnosed. And I know that our audience got some really good tips on how they can better support everyone. So thank you again.
All right. Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. And thank you for this Black Breast Matters campaign program. I think this is really a great way to get us thinking about how we can take care of ourselves and take care of our girls, literally.
Take care of the girls. Well, that ends our podcast for today, and prayerfully, your refreshing walk. I hope you learned something of value to help enhance your breast health plan, because our breasts deserve our best, and our lives may very well depend on it. Have a great week, my sisters.